Welcome to the Insurance Leadership Podcast. This is the last episode of 2025. It has been a great year, and we want to thank you for listening in and sharing and liking all the podcast stuff we put out this year. In today's episode, we'll be pulling the highlights from all the speakers throughout the year. Hopefully you enjoy it, and remember, a good plan today is better than a great plan months from now. Thank you.
I'm a huge believer that I'm not in the insurance space, I'm in the people space. And that might sound kind of hokey, but so many people are sad. They don't like their jobs. They are stretched thin financially. Like, we're human beings. And so I'm like, how do I saddle up next to people and say, I see you, I hear you, I feel you, I'm going to help. I like to just lead almost from the side, if you will. And I've noticed that the more real I can be, and so much of our content and our platform in general is just real, raw Luke. So many people are used to an insurance person showing up. And when Luke, the Russian mobster who looks like he just got paroled, they're kind of like, oh, that guy's kind of like me. I think I'll listen to him. So I think I just build really quick rapport with people because I don't try to blow smoke. I don't try to convince them of anything. I just tell the truth. And that seems to resonate with people in a big way.
Where I went to college, they would have slogans in the classrooms that you would look at in addition to the instructor. And one of those slogans was, don't sacrifice the permanent on the altar of the immediate. And I think that whenever I had the inclination to look around a little bit and see what else was out there, I came back to the fact that the permanent, which is VSP for me, for the major part of my career, as you said, over 30 years, has been something that I valued, and we're going to get into the reasons for that. But that's probably why I stayed with VSP as many years as they've had me so far. You just need to look at things in such a way that you don't see what's happening today and you get discouraged and you go looking elsewhere. You look at the thing long term.
If you look at any of my content, my newsletter, the podcast show notes, I talk about everything publicly. I don't want to be an influencer or a thought leader where people look at me and see you've got 7,500 followers on a platform and you're this untouchable, not human person. I'm very human, and I want people to understand that you can get to where I'm at by doing the same things that I've done and just feeling and being public about it. And I think that's why I'm having success. Is authenticity is the new digital currency, and I refuse to be anything other than who I am.
Yeah, no doubt, man. And part of that emotional health is the human experience, right? Stoicism has a lot of great ideas, but I mean, it's not a full human experience if you don't feel those range of emotions and learn how to express them. And I, as well, child of mid-'80s, and so that was not suppress your emotions. Yeah. Don't talk about it. But as a leader, that's such an important thing to be in tune with your emotions. I feel fear here. Well, maybe this is a bad decision. I should stop for a minute and think about this.
Yeah.
I work with brokerages. I work with distributors like yourself. I do agent trainings, but a lot of times I'm not talking directly to the agents. And so that is actually sometimes a little difficult for me because I would like to talk to the agents. You want to talk to the person who's talking to the client. And sometimes, there's 2 or 3 people in between. There's might be a distributor and then an agency and then the agent. And so things get lost in communication. And so that is difficult sometimes. But I think having an open conversation all the time. I try to make myself available as often as I can. I try to suggest trainings. If I hear a strategy from one brokerage that they are, comfortable with me sharing with another brokerage, I'll do that. But I think, I just want to be there to answer any questions. I want to be there to be a sounding board for the brokerages. Do you think this would work? Whenever we do, for instance, bonuses or things like that, I'm always asking the brokerage, what do you think would motivate agents? Right. I want communication from them. I want feedback from them. And I think I learned that from working with 150 different carriers. I learned what kind of carrier representative I want to be.
What lessons have kind of shaped your journey thus far with Thatch?
My biggest piece of advice is probably ignore most advice you get from experts.
Okay.
And that might mean it for me as well. But the reason I say that is that if you are starting a company, or you're trying to launch a new business line, or you're doing anything that is remotely risky, the odds are that there's going to be really smart people who don't think that's a good idea. And in fact, if everybody thought it was a good idea, then everybody would be doing it. And there would actually be no incremental benefit to starting that company or launching that new product line or do whatever. You have to have some insight into the world, into the product, into the customer base, whatever it might be. You have to have some insight that not everybody in the world agrees with you on. Having the conviction to really kind of hold true to what you believe, despite the fact that very smart people that you perhaps respect or that are in a position of greater authority than you are telling you you shouldn't do that, it's not a good idea, is kind of that guts is kind of what it takes to do something meaningful. And I think that trickles down into the way that you really start your initiative and the way that you recruit a team, which is being really clear about what you stand for and what you believe in.
I do think in this climate, the only way to lose, the way you're going to lose to all of your competitors as a broker, the way you're going to lose all of your patients as a clinician, the way like your health is going to suffer as a patient, it's all the same thing. The guaranteed way to lose is just doing things the way they've always been done, because we are very clear that that's just not working, and it's working increasingly poorly. But we have the opportunity to innovate, and companies are emerging that are innovating. Regulation at a much slower rate is also changing, as you mentioned. And I think that whatever the best future is, whatever the next steps are, they're not going to be what we've been doing. And so staying open and willing to investigate and try new things is going to be the only way to survive.
There is a lot of changes happening in the industry. Make sure you stay informed, attend industry events, listen to podcasts, meet with skip levels in your organization to hear and gather insights and their perspective on what's happening. But don't stop just at the information collection stage, then take action on that. Ultimately, it's up to all of us to bring those insights that we gather from all those different activities and then apply them to the work that we do so that we stay ahead. So stay a lifelong learner, stay informed, and then act on those insights and learnings.
Other movement in the industry that I think you've seen is a lot of interest in pursuing your vision benefits online. And I think that we've seen an increasing amount of eyewear in the United States being purchased online, whether you're a consumer with no benefits or whether you're a benefit member. Increasingly starting to get their eyewear online. And we think that right now it's about 25% of the market for the total US spend. If you put in both, sunglasses, prescription eyewear, contact lenses, you're getting into some pretty high numbers.
What do you think's pushing that forward?
And I think that I think that vision care in particular, more so than medical or dental, is a consumer-oriented product for sure, because you're in there. There's a fashion sense to it, right? You go to the doctor and you're and getting a treatment for a medical issue. It's not there's not a fashion sense to that. But if you're getting a vision benefit, there's a fashion sense to it. It's a fun aspect to it. People want to use their vision benefits, and so I think that it lends itself to other consumer goods that have been increasingly purchased online and digitally.
We'll all get excited in the beginning, first job, but after 5-10 years plus later, we start getting a little bit miserable because things are a little bit mundane. It's the same old thing over and over again. So it's important to forecast your misery and to think, when in the future will you no longer enjoy doing what you want to do, because that'll keep you motivated to save and invest as much as possible. The personal saving rate in America is about 5%, which means it takes 20 years to save 1 year of financial freedom. I mean, that's crazy. So if you work huh? 60 years, you're going to save 3 years of financial freedom? That's nuts to me. And then what we saw during the pandemic was that the personal saving rate in America rocketed from 5% to about 35%. So in other words, it told all of us that we can save more if we want to. We just choose not to. And if you're saving at a 33% clip, for example, that means that every 3 years you work, you save 1 year of financial freedom. And if you save at a 50% clip, every year you work, you save 1 year of financial freedom. So really, it's about focusing on when you think you no longer want to do the job that you want to do, so you can focus on saving and investing as much as possible every single month.
There's a buddy of mine who owns a great shop in Alabama. He hires a lot of young people, and he's got a lot of older people, and he pairs them up where the older guys and the younger guys are paired together. Kind of just it touches a little bit, but that way the younger guys can help the older guys with some of the stuff they may not be as good about, but the older guys can help the young guys kind of think from a business standpoint that they, 2 years out of college, you're not thinking about, any of that type of stuff. So it's one of those things, it's a good pair to be able to help go out. And I think realizing that from a leader standpoint is very intelligent, and making sure you're pairing them up and they go in pairs together and they're both learning and training together. So off the cuff, that's kind of what I would say to that one.
Yeah, kind of goes back to that mentorship.
It does. It's important. It's very important.